Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. So what we want to know is, who is Katie? How did cancer come into your life?
Well, in 2017, I had two young children, and they were 2 and 3, and my 2-year-old I had weaned a year earlier, and still let down whenever I heard babies cry out in public. And it was perfectly normal breast milk, but I was trying to follow up with my doctor on it, and that's um, eventually how we figured out I had breast cancer. It was all kind of happenstance. It was stage 1, and I ended up doing a bilateral mastectomy, which went a bit awry, but got through that, got through the chemo. And then it was August of 2020, I was re-diagnosed stage 4.
Now, a lot of people are surprised when young women who are just finished nursing or just finished having a baby are diagnosed. But actually, for anyone who's estrogen positive, this is the time when hormones are at their absolute peak in your body, right? So I was also diagnosed just after finishing breastfeeding my daughter. And yeah, it's a time when your estrogen is really off the charts in your body all the way through your pregnancy and into breastfeeding. And so a lot of young mothers find they have cancer in this season of life. So anyway, Katie, you're not alone in that. I was exactly in the same moment as you with the 2-year-old as well. So then
Yep,
tell
I
us
was
what
triple
happened with
positive.
what was that?
And I was triple positive. So
Triple
yeah,
positive. Yeah.
mhm.
So then what happened?
Um, well, I sorry, lost that there. Um, I after the first diagnosis, I think that having young children, it was easier for me to focus on them more than me. It still felt more correct to put my children and their needs first. It just always did. And I felt a lot of guilt around, when my older one was in preschool and my younger one was home with me, and I'd have chemo and I couldn't get out of bed, and I'd put on Disney movies and he'd wake me up and I'd sing the songs with him and then go back to sleep. And I'd feel a lot of guilt around the fact that he had way more screen time and not as much mom time. And so I put my head down. I wanted to work on diet and exercise and make sure I take all of my things. I'm not going to be doing cancer again. But then we did cancer again. And so I had to approach it a whole different way the second time.
Do you remember the moment you were told you had cancer the second time?
Oh, yes. It was the middle of the pandemic. I didn't want to go to the hospital, but I had a pain in my side that kept getting worse over the course of a couple of days, and I couldn't get out of bed. So I was like, I guess we have to go to the emergency room. I was really hoping it was like my gallbladder or something that we could just pop out and I could move on. But they did a whole bunch of scans once I finally got admitted there, and came back and basically said, hi, we're going to send you home with painkillers. We can't find anything that's wrong with you other than you needed to have an appointment with your oncologist on Monday. We just spoke to them and we're really sorry. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. It was Saturday and I got to go home with all of my scans to look at them myself and wait to talk to my oncologist on Monday. That's how we found out.
We're really sorry. I mean, it seems like there's nothing else to be said when you're diagnosed. I just remember that as well. The doctor on the line just saying over and over, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. A young mom with coming in and being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer is just heartbreaking for everyone. I think it's just not something we want to imagine.
No,
And
it's scary because it was, pandemic, and you can't have your family there. You can't have anybody with you in the emergency room. You're sort of solo.
a lot of isolation.
Yeah.
And how long has it been since that diagnosis?
Well, it's August of 2020, so it's been almost 3 years. Um, when it came back, we had found it in the lungs, but it was also in the liver and bones. So I'd always be like, lung, liver, and bones, but not the brain, because those are the four big reoccurrence spots. And I was terrified of it going to my brain. That was something that keep me up at night. But it did. And we found out I had a big brain tumor in 2021 and October, and I had a craniotomy and radiation afterwards. And just like anything else, it's actually manageable, and it got me to a place for my anxiety where I no longer battle it the way I used to. Of course, sometimes I still get nervous, but instead of I realized it was like the roller coaster that you never got off of. You're waiting and then you find the results, but now you're just waiting for the next scan again. And you can't stay in the waiting place forever and ever. There's too much, it's too frozen and still. Um, Regardless of what my scans say, we'll figure it out. We will figure out the next steps, and there's no reason to run through a list of steps that I might have to take if I don't know if I have to take them. So I've gotten to a place where I can honestly, I wait to look at my scans till I go to the doctor. I don't need to check them right away. We will work on it as it comes, and I don't have control over it. So it's something I can set down.
You're talking about anxiety, and this is very, very real. Of course, the moment you're diagnosed the first time came because of a scan. And so from that time on, every time we go in for a scan, we expect this bad news, we expect trauma. And so the idea of a scan, just thinking about our next scan, keeps us in this cycle of trauma, perpetual fear. And it becomes sort of a culture of fear, because especially like you and I, for stage 4, the scans come and come and come. They come every 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, but they're going to keep coming. And so if we're living in this cycle of fear around scans, then we never get an escape. We never get to a place of peace. And sounds like you've come to an acceptance maybe of the circumstance. You're not really fighting against it anymore. You're learning to live with the cancer outside of this cycle of fear that's so easy to fall into.
They're like waves. The scans come like waves, and sometimes it's a really big wave that takes everything out. Sometimes it's a gentle wave, but it's part of the cycle, and it's not going to change how I live. So I'm going to keep on trying to find ways to make sure that there's more joy than fear. I thought of fear as fight or flight, but I realized I learned through the process that what I do is freeze. I do a different F. I freeze when I feel fear. And that's a hard place to get out of, that frozen zone. And I've learned that sitting down and writing myself letters is a great way to get unfrozen. Just to, even if the letter is like, I don't know what I wanted, I don't know what it is, I feel weird and stuck, and I don't like it. I usually can eventually come up with ideas of ways to not be stuck and move on when I get myself to just move a little. It reminds me that there's so many other things that I could be doing, and that it's okay. Maybe I'm frozen because I'm really sad that I missed a sign up date for one of my kids' events, and now they can't play that sport or something. And I'm really mad at myself and I'm so down. I just freeze. I can't do anything. And, I got to figure out a way to find the light and not stay in those places of judgment.
Definitely. And And I like what you're talking about, because we do so much to take care of our bodies. We go through the treatments, and then we take care of our bodies to recover from the treatments. But tools that help us move forward emotionally and heal emotionally are much harder to identify. And I love to hear you say you're writing letters, and you didn't just say you're writing letters. Those letters help you identify how you're actually feeling. And
Mhm.
I do the same thing. I journal, because when I journal, I am being very honest with myself. There's no one to hide from. So I just write whatever it is that is flowing out of my head, and I discover in the process how I'm really feeling, what's really going on inside of me, that it is making me angry or frustrated with someone, or whatever. And so by writing it out, it really, really gets to the core. If I write long enough, if I write for 5 minutes, I'll put it down and still be angry. But if I write long enough, then I get to
Right.
the core of the problem. And I hear in my own voice that there's something bigger happening inside of me. So your
Mhm.
letters are, sounds like they're letting you do that. They're letting you release a little bits of this emotion that's bubbling up in you, and therefore process it so you can move forward with a clear mind.
Right, exactly. And I had trouble journaling. Um, so I started off by writing letters to people that I was never really intending to send, but as a writing prompt to get me started to explore. I think that, and then eventually it kind of turned into letters to myself, and that helps me um, identify positive things as well, because part of it is I try to write myself as though I'm somebody I love dearly. And I know that, of course I love myself dearly, but like I've always found it easier to care for others than myself. And so trying to think of myself as I'm writing to someone that I love and want to care for so much. Um, and in doing that, I find that I am able to explore more of my own feelings in a way that's non-judgmental of myself, and I can hold space for myself to feel things that are hard and are good. Like, you know what though? You washed your face, you brushed your teeth, and you put on clean underpants today. I don't know if anybody knows, but that was a win, because you had a nauseous day where you couldn't get out of bed, but you still did those great things to take care of yourself, and you should give yourself credit for that, because that was really hard. And you were feeling really defeated, but you still did it. You still put on clean clothes, you still brushed those teeth after you got sick, you still washed your body and took care of it. You've done an outstanding job today. And reminding myself of those things is really important.
Definitely. And cancer's full of hard things. I mean, physically hard, emotionally difficult, this constant awareness that time is not even a thing anymore. We can't count on it. We can't look forward to it. There's just this void in front of us, especially with metastatic disease. Thinking about where we are and what our life looks like, because the future is so full of uncertainty. And so these difficult moments might be physical, where you're responding to a physical treatment, and it's hard to put on your clothes and get out of bed. And acknowledging that doing small, beautiful things that help strengthen you is enough, right? It's enough. We don't have to look Instagram worthy every single day, and we don't have to impress anyone. We just have to do our best with what we've been given today. But in the same ways, those difficult days that are emotional, when we have hair and we are looking fine, and when we're at the softball game or whatever we're doing, and we're blending in with society, but we're having one of those difficult days internally, and we don't want to get out of bed inside, and we don't want to brush our teeth and take care of ourselves and do whatever is necessary for our own wellness. But nobody can see, right?
Right.
Because we blend in. So talk about, can you tell me a story about one of those days when on the inside you just felt like this is too much?
Well, something I struggle with and struggled with a lot was imposter syndrome. I was raised very much, you get injured, you walk it off, you get up, you keep going, you do not cry about it, you do not pout. We were a sports family. You kind of pounded through it. So I tend to not give myself space to be, it can't, I don't, I don't, I have trouble admitting to myself that it's okay that I'm sick. And it's true. I always feel like I'm not as bad off as other people. There's people who have it worse than me. And I shouldn't really be sad or whining or complaining in the first place. It's it's still a thing I struggle with, even being re-diagnosed. The first time around, I didn't want to take part in opportunities for breast cancer patients, people coming to clean your house, people helping with rides, because, well, I can still get it done, and there's people who need this more than me, and I should save that for them. And I don't need therapy, and I don't need to be part of group. There's people who need that more than me, and that should be for them. And so I think it took a long time before I could accept the fact that it's okay for me to say I need help and I'm sad.
Definitely. This part of cancer, this comparison part is everywhere. Someone who has stage 1 will say they only have like a little bit of cancer, or someone who
Mhm.
has a sort of a treatable, curable kind of cancer will say, well, I had the good cancer.
Right.
And everyone feels like they don't deserve a good thing. With adventure therapy, I'm giving away gifts, I'm giving away events and retreats and all sorts of things. And people say, oh, no, we don't deserve it. Someone else, had more cancer or had worse cancer. And I just want to say, you can't be a little pregnant. Like, you're either pregnant or you're not. If you have cancer, we have all been shaped similarly. Cancer, yes, for you and I who are metastatic, we are dealing with it at a longer pace in treatments, but the mental piece of it is the same for each of us. Cancer shakes your identity. It makes you question your future. Even if you have stage 1, you're looking at your future and wondering what happens at that 5-year mark. And even if you have stage 4, we're looking at the 5-year mark going, what happens at the 5-year mark, right? So it does not matter if you think you have a quote good cancer or if you are stage 1. The emotional side effects of cancer show up for everyone because
Mhm.
we all go through this shifting perspective. We all feel isolated because we can't find among our friends people who really understand our struggles. We all face the fear of uncertainty of a future. So when it comes to the invisible impact of cancer, it's very, very similar for all of us. So I just want to put it out there because I hear this all the time. People say, I don't need it. I don't need it. We can make do. I'm like, you don't have to make do. There are people who will help you. You just have to receive the gift. Gifts are given, they're out there, they're waiting, but all of us have to choose to receive it.
Receiving love is something that I had to really relearn. I had to learn that it brings my loved ones joy
Mhm.
to cook me dinner and bring it to me, on that night when I'm having a rough day. It actually, people want to help. It lets them express love, and it lets them be a part of the process, and it lets them feel not so outside, especially if you can tell them something you need that they can do for you. They are grateful for the opportunity. It's getting out of your own way to allow these things to come in that is so important and helps you connect to community in ways that you didn't realize, just by being a little more vulnerable with people.
You're exactly right. People cannot fix this for us. No matter who they are, they can't fix the facts that we have cancer. They can't just take it out of our bodies and let us be done with it. But they have to do something. They have this pent up energy where they want
Mhm.
to take care of you. And so bringing a meal, let them do it for their sake. If not, if you're not going to eat it because you want to be vegan and you want to make sure that everything goes in your body is one way, fine. Let them bring you a DoorDash. Let them bring you something different, but allow people into your life because it's good for them. Start with that. Do it
Right.
because it's good for them. Then you might find it's good for you as well. We have this idea of strength. And when you watch like superhero movies or whatever, you see these people who are like all individualistic. They say, I'm the strongest and I'm going to take care of this and I don't need anyone else. And we have in our culture this idea of strength as being someone who does not need others. But that is such a lie. That is such a lie. True strength comes when we link arms with others, because in life, I don't care if it's cancer or finances or kids or whatever it is, we are going to have moments of weakness. We're going to trip and fall. We're going to make mistakes. You cannot get through life without having some moment where you've made a mistake that just hurts. But if you have linked arms with others, there is a strength to carry you through. You will not fall down. You will not be crushed. You will be carried through because of a community that comes into your life and carries you. And that is true strength. That is the
Mhm.
true definition, but we do not see that often enough. And we're all living out our American individualistic, pioneering
Exactly.
kind of,
Mhm.
spirit, and it's leaving us isolated in a way that is unnecessary.
Absolutely. And I think that it's something that's, across the board kind of an issue right now. And is trying to find community and people experiencing a lot of loneliness. And I understand, and that is rough. And I think when within the cancer community, especially if you're not, when your hair is grown in, and when you do look back to being put together at at the at the game or whatnot, it is hard to explain to people. We were watching a show last night. My youngest turned to me, and the girl in the show, it was her 13th birthday, and they were having a birthday party, and he turns to me and said, are you gonna be there for my 13th birthday party? And he's 8. And I'm going, I sure gonna try, buddy. I'm gonna do everything I can to try to be there no matter what. But that's just, they're hard conversations to have.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And my older one does not like those conversations. My little one, he likes to talk about it, and I want him to feel okay to talk about it because this is his reality. This is all he's really known. So when they went to Leslie's week and they met other kids whose parents had cancer, it was, I've never seen them so easily make friends. Just I was so worried, and seconds they seemed to be best friends with every kid there running, and I just, what a weight it must have been off their shoulders to be able to play with kids knowing every kid there knew exactly what they go through, you know?
There are amazing organizations that really help kids. I always promote Camp Kesem. It is fantastic. There is truly Kesem magic there. But just like you said, it is allowing our children as young moms, like our hearts are for our kids, right? And making sure that they have these connections that will carry them through. And I remember the first time my kids came back, I sent them off in the middle of my treatments, and I hadn't noticed that sort of the dark clouds over them. But when they came back and they were laughing again and they were skipping down the road, I looked at them and I realized somewhere along the way that had been lost, like that childlike, bubbly happiness that just comes out of nowhere had disappeared, and I hadn't even noticed. I was doing all my treatments. I was in the worst state of that. And my kids hadn't been my priority, hadn't really been anybody's priority. I mean, they were healthy and strong, but we weren't
Right.
like focused on them like you would a child. And so I think that they got lost a little bit, but Kesem brought that back because just like you said, and just like we were talking about, we need community, we need strength, we
Mhm.
need permission to know that this is okay, that we're not the only one. And by entering into a group where there are so many other kids who live this reality and they're having fun and they're out
Yeah.
there living, they have, oh, it's okay. My mom might be sick, but it's okay for me to still laugh. It's okay for me to have fun and play games. And that permission is given, even if it's not verbal, it is just happens. And that is something sometimes we need. I know in my life, there was a specific moment when I was diagnosed stage 4. I hadn't got clear scans, hadn't got stability. And I was at a theme park, not Disneyland. I probably wouldn't have needed permission there, but I was at a different theme park. And I stood there and I was like, can I laugh right now? Like, is it okay? And I had to like stand there for a minute and like acknowledge that that question existed in my mind. Like, is it okay to be happy? Is it okay to be optimistic? Is it okay to dream of something different than just forever treatments and then nothing good on the other side? And, I'm wrestling with those questions. Our kids are wrestling with these questions, and everyone who loves us they're not saying it out loud, but it's the reality. They are co-survivors. They're watching us walk through this and they have questions too.
Hmm. I was blessed with a really, really inappropriate sense of humor. So I I credit that to most of my survivorship, honestly. Um, I find laughter to be one of the most important foundations of the human experience, because when we laugh and we just get to really do that whole body laugh situation, I mean, there's no room then for the hate or the fear or the anger, and that's when you just really, I feel like, get to release. And so it's an amazing gift to get to see your kids laugh. I understand why it's so impactful when they come home from the camp and you see them laugh. It fills my heart with joy, and sure it does yours too. But um, learning how to allow joy back into your life is definitely part of the healing process emotionally, I think. With the idea of, okay, so I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to have these kids, they're going to grow up, and they're going to move out, and then I'm going to be able to retire, and then I'm going to travel, and then have just so much joy at that point, and it's like, well, things have gotten really jumbled up now, and so in a way, you know it's it's almost a blessing. We get to have joy all the time.
I love that you said that. And you're exactly right. So much of our culture is based on this idea that we have this age of responsibility, and then we have these other ages of life, and some of them are the time you have permission to really live and laugh and have joy and travel and explore. And the other ages are the times when you're like supposed to be doing something different, right? You're being a mom
Mhm.
right now, just be a mom. There'll be a future where you can just travel and laugh and be carefree, right?
Oh, so I'll have my
Cancer,
opportunity again.
yeah, cancer like crushes that. Like
Yeah.
that's not a thing. That is something they've taught us in society, but it does not exist. That is not true. Because just like you said, there is joy in every moment. And that, if we can capture that idea, guys, that is the gift of cancer.
Mhm.
What happens is our golden age, that age that we thought was supposed to be for later, becomes the moment.
Now.
It comes every moment, because
Mhm.
we can't wait for later.
Right.
We're gonna have to be moms, we're gonna have to be responsible, we're gonna have to do all the things while also embracing a golden experience right now, because right now is what we have. And when we can do that, when we can lay aside those concepts, right? Those concepts that, oh, in the future people are going to be, it's on my 30th anniversary that I'm going to go take this big trip, right? Like 30th anniversary, whatever. Like if I can take a big trip, we're taking it today,
Right.
because I am here and we are here, and this is what we have. These are the golden moments. I don't have to wait till some future to live that out. And so cancer gives us the opportunity to break down these fake walls and start embracing the joy, the laughter, the gifts of life right now.
And when it first occurred and people would talk about the concept that like we choose all these things before we come to this earth, you know, like we've chosen this life or something, that used to make me so mad. Or the idea that cancer is a blessing, I would get so mad when people would it would talk to me about, I would think to my, no, if you knew what I was going through right now with my two babies at home, with puke all over myself, with my hair falling out in clumps, with wondering if I'll ever be desirable again as a woman now that I've lost my breasts and really can't have reconstructive surgery, you know, am I ever even going to be considered as a woman again? Nobody would ever have the nerve to say to me that, you know, cancer is a blessing. I'm like, how would that be possible? And you know, I I give myself a lot of space for that, for those feelings during those times. That was necessary and part of the process, you know, is letting yourself get as angry as you need to about the situation. And when people are telling you it's a blessing and you're not there yet, that can be so hard. You're like, no, no, it is not. I'm on my way to be poisoned, is what I'd say every time I had to go to chemo. Got poisoning again Tuesday, so that's where I'll be. But you know, at this point, I have I've been able to get past the anger part and can actually see it. I see now. I get it. I get how it can be a blessing in my life. I have this opportunity to experience so much joy when, you know, doing small things with my children and allowing myself to ignore the piles of laundry downstairs, not even feeling the slightest guilty about it, not even considering it. I can just set that down. I can play with my kids and color with them and put together beadwork stuff and have a fantastic time throwing things around in the yard and still make them dinner, and it's still going to be okay. Those clothes will get washed tomorrow, another time, and I don't have that constant nagging voice anymore that I'm not doing enough, that it's not good enough. I can tap into the now in ways that I would not be able to do if I was trying to get a promotion and have a house that's presentable to folk and, you know, worry about things that are not at the end of the day the things that actually bring me joy. So I'm blessed in that regard, and I am so lucky to be here still with my kids every day. You know, that I wake up, I'm not a morning person. I'm good now at getting up in the morning and being in a good mood, playing my favorite song, using a fancy crystal goblet for no reason for my orange juice, just because I was having a weird morning and that made me smile a lot. And so that's what I'm doing today. It's a beautiful thing.
I love it. I just love it so much. You're exactly right. You the opportunity to find joy in something that would have been pain, like it would have been like an inconvenience. Like, why do I have to do this and like get up early and go do that and for my
Mhm.
kids? Like, but now you're so thankful that you're there and you get to engage and watch your children's face light up when they learn something new and all of these tiny precious moments that would have been lost amongst the chaos and the busyness and our minds being anywhere else. And now they're here and we get to hold each and every one of them, rather than again storing them all up for one big trip we were going to plan on taking when we were older. Now we get to
Mhm.
carry each and every one of these tiny little moments as a treasure because they are just as important, if not more important, than one giant experience in the future for our children. And so I just love it. And I have experienced that. People have told me I'm absolutely crazy, if not evil, for saying there's a gift inside of cancer. Like
Uh-huh.
there That's why I talk about this healing process, right? Because if you are running away from the death part, like I start off with the fire, if you're running away from a fire that's threatening you, there's no good there. You are grabbing what you can and you're getting out. And if someone said, "Don't worry, it's gonna really work out well," you'd be like pushing them back into the fire because you're like, "Don't talk to me right now," right? And then
Mhm.
if in the next season when you're like empty and you don't know and you're grieving and there's no answers, like someone says there's good in that pace, you're like, no, this, I don't have anything. There's not good, there's not bad, there's nothing. I'm so empty and just, just yeah.
You
So
talk about that flower in the tree stump.
yes, exactly. Like you have to get to the place where there's calm and you can see the beauty growing, right? And
Mhm.
that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the flower, a poppy, this bright, vibrant, fragile thing growing inside of this burnt out ash of a tree that was once mighty. This is hope. This is joy. This is something that we can't plan for, but
Mhm.
it's there for us if we could just pause and see it. And you don't have to have cancer to pause and see this, right? You have to start looking, expecting good things, wake up and expecting good things. And when you do that, you'll find them. And so I love your stories. And I love that you've gotten to a place where you can see that.
And when you think about the fact that it's really it's the chance of getting diagnosed with cancer at such a young age, the idea that you are part of the small percentage of humans who have experienced that, and then when you think about all of the good things that can happen, and there's not a big percentage of a chance that that could happen, but I mean it happened with a bad thing. Why couldn't it be just as likely that I would be singled out to be somebody who had a wonderful thing happen to me, that there's only a small percentage of a chance that it could happen? I mean, it's just as likely that that is a thing that would occur.
I know, isn't it amazing? Just as
Yeah.
likely. We are
So
just trained to
I
see worst case scenario. Everything in our mind points us, but why wouldn't we be able to embrace best case scenario? Like best
right.
case scenario is just as likely, but think about how it will change who we are along the way.
And I did art for so long, and then I kind of lost touch with that when I had children. It's just very difficult, when you're trying to figure out how to be a parent and a human. Um, and then I hadn't tapped back into it for a really long time, and I think part of that is art was not. I never thought it could be a career. I never thought that it was, something that was more valuable beyond just I like to do it for me. I never even let myself think that it was something that I could do as a job. I held myself back entirely with the thought process. And now when I'm exploring it, it's not thinking about it as a job, and it's not thinking about doing it just for me. I'm able to approach it with endless possibilities because I'm not putting a cap on it, and I'm not telling myself, oh, this is kind of dumb. That's not really a great idea. That might not work out. What if it does? What if it does work out? Is a new, ooh, let's do this, but let's try this too, because that might work out. And in all areas of life, I feel like that same kind of window opens where all of a sudden you're like, hey, yeah, that door shut, but there's windows everywhere. If you want to look around and open them, like we can find so much great stuff to get into and explore. And it doesn't have to be part of an end game or a big plan. And great things can happen every day in tiny doses and big doses. It's what you look for that you see.
Definitely. And that's what you're describing is what call like when I lost the fear of cancer, when I stopped grieving or fighting against it, then I really lost the fear of everything. Like anything could work out, anything
Mhm.
could be amazing, and anything could be tried. And if I failed, like who cares? Like who in the world cares? The only thing that matters to me is that I'm out there trying, searching for that purpose, searching for a way to give back, make this meaningful life. And yeah, like you said, anything is possible. Why wouldn't we try? And in the past, we're trying to fit into boxes, or we're trying to fit into some kind of preconceived notion, but it just kept us so small along the
Mhm.
way. Maybe it was trying to keep us safe, but now there's no safety. We're not seeking after safety anymore. We're just seeking after meaningful. And when it
Yeah.
comes to being meaningful, the fear is not, the fear of failure just doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I have totally experienced what you're talking about as well. I think it's wonderful that you can affirm this.
And
I want to just ask you, as far as affirming, I want to close this out, but ask you, the conversation we're having here is about the invisible side effects of cancer. So have you experienced isolation,
oh, absolutely.
fear,
Absolutely.
a broken identity?
100%.
And so, and you said, have you experienced grief around your experience and your identity?
Completely. I mean, I touched on it a little bit. I recovering from the bilateral mastectomy. I My port got infected, which led to me becoming septic. It had healed poorly. I had to be scraped out. I had to be cauterized down. I was in the hospital for 10 days with the sepsis and super high fever. It was real touch and go there. And coming out of that, the idea of voluntarily going back in for what they were thinking would probably be like a you know 15 to 20-hour surgery to do like a flap reconstruction was the only thing that would be available then. And I couldn't do it. I realized I couldn't voluntarily go into that surgery having been through what I went through with just the mastectomy. And that meant I wasn't going to have boobs again. That wasn't something I had prepared for as a woman. I had loved my boobs. I really put them out there. It was it was one of my favorite assets. So, you know, whole identity starts to get questioned in ways, and then you lose your hair and you lose your eyebrows, and it gets hard to even look in the mirror. And I had to realize at some point that I still to this day, when I go to the bathroom and I pass through, I don't look at mirrors. I have to stop myself and intentionally make myself look at me in the mirror, because I got so used to just not even seeing myself because it didn't look how I thought I should. It wasn't me that I saw there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a journey.
It's a journey. And some of that is like subconscious. Like I thought I'd be totally fine without breasts. I thought, like, who
I
cares?
did too.
Whatever. And then looking at my hair, with myself without hair, without eyebrows, without breasts, I couldn't even identify who I was. Like my subconscious couldn't like put the before and after together and make it resolved. And it was so much more difficult than I ever would have guessed. And I didn't definitely didn't look at myself. I never ever went without a shirt. I mean, I never let anyone see me. Even I'm married, like it was just not an option. There is that subconscious that says, this is who you were. What happened? What happened? Every time you see the image, and you just cannot even begin to comprehend that that person in the mirror is you. And so there's grief at this subconscious level, but then there's also grief for every little thing. That's the fact that you can't do laundry. Like at some point there might be grief there. Like I hate
Yeah.
laundry, but still I wish that there was a way to get it done right. So there's grief, there's just grief upon grief upon grief in the process of cancer.
And it's okay. That's okay, because if you want to feel the joy of the everyday moments, we've got to be okay with feeling the grief and the heaviness, and letting ourselves do that too.
You're exactly
Because
right.
there is beauty in a good cry, and letting yourself feel those feelings, and giving yourself permission to have those thoughts. They don't define you. You are not your feelings. You are not, that's not you, but you're allowed to have those. They're part of the experience. You can't deny them, but they're not you. So when it comes to the grieving and the grief, I think that it's just as important to feel that and let yourself, and then say, hey, that was a good cry. What song do I like to dance to the most?
No, you're
Let's just put that on and see what happens. No, I don't have to dance. I'm just gonna put it on and see, and just see. And maybe halfway through the song, there's a little shimmy got thrown in there. Okay. And then maybe a kid runs in and shows you something, that they just drew. And it's pretty funny. And so you guys laugh about that for a minute. And now they're dancing with you because this is a song you guys dance to a lot. And now the kitchen's full of laughter and everybody's doing okay again. And you're having a moment where you're like, God, I wish somebody was filming this. I feel like it's just so perfect and beautiful. And you can't get there if you didn't get to have that good cry first and let yourself grieve the fact that, like, yeah, there's things you missed, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be sad about it. And then shift 180 degrees, look a totally different directions, find a pretty tree, find a cloud that's shaped like Mickey Mouse, find something to change the tune, and find your way back to a good song that's full of joy.
I love it. It's beautiful. All right, let's wrap this conversation up. I wanted you to tell me one story about your favorite gift cancer gave you. Was there a moment or something beautiful that you would not have experienced without cancer in your life?
Yeah, a gift that cancer's given me. I think the gift that cancer's given me most is me, a relationship with myself, and an appreciation for me that I never had before. I have always had a hard time with negative self-talk. I've always had a hard time with self-esteem. I've struggled with feeling like I have a purpose. And even after having cancer, when you're like, oh, everybody says that all of a sudden it gets really clear and then you have this big purpose in your life. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't gotten a purpose yet. Did I not get the letter? Like, am I missing a thing? But finding out that I like me, I like who I am, and that's enough. That I am enough. I'm good enough. I'm just the way I am. I can be kind to myself and still get things done. And I feel like I'm able to be a better mom, a better friend, a better daughter, a better sister, a better person, because I'm living my life in a way that's more authentic to and more in line with my values. And I know what they are now because I've taken the time to sit with who I am and what I like and what I want out of this world. And I don't think I would be able to be the same person I am today if I didn't have cancer.
I love it.
I'm the gift cancer gave me.
Yay! Well, Katie, thank you so much for spending your time with me and sharing your story. I know that so many people will be encouraged. Other people who maybe feel like they haven't found their purpose, but they can be encouraged to keep going and release maybe some of that anger so that they could experience other things as well. But we're just so grateful for you. I want to acknowledge you as a good mom, as a good sister, as a good friend, because I know that you are. So thank you for joining this discussion. If you would like to know more about this topic, please check out adventuretherapyfoundation.org. We have education and blogs. We have more podcast episodes and stories. There's so many more people like Katie out there who are telling their story and are finding the gift, the good that there is in cancer. Thank you for listening. My name is Lauren Huffmaster, and this is Adventure with Scars.